Today I want to talk about Love Island. So I posted this, I'll insert here, TikTok a while ago. And, you know, it got me thinking about all of the things that we can learn from Love Island as a culture. And learn from like reality TV in general, especially reality TV that focuses... Sorry, that's my straw. Especially reality TV that tends to focus on relationships. Obviously, it's focused solely on like heteronormative relationships. So like you're only getting like that kind of myopic view. However, being unfortunately a hetero queen, you know, who likes to dabble here or there, but like genuinely... I mean, I'm not going to start trying to like claim my LGBT rights just because I've smooshed a few girls. You know what I mean? So therefore, unfortunately, the basic straight people on Love Island do tend to teach me a lot. And I think everyone enjoys watching Love Island for mainly these reasons, because I think like the actual show itself doesn't really give you as much tea as the like discussion around the show, the like social media reaction, the treatment of the cast, the lore, if you will, of the show teaches us so much more than actually the very small amount of action that comes from the show itself. So before I get started, I do want to say, obviously, number one, these are just my opinions. Number two, obviously throughout the video I'm going to be speaking in very general terms about like men and women, but like if you are a man or a woman and I say something like, oh, clearly all men have smelly feet, like babe, I'm not saying you have smelly feet, so there's no need to comment down below and tell me you don't. I'm speaking in really general broad strokes because it would be so unbelievably pedantic if I didn't. When I talk about the characters, exactly, when I talk about the people who are on the show, I'm kind of using them as like an archetype of a person, right? I'm not saying that person is this. I don't know them. You don't know them. I'm sure they're lovely. I'm sure if you met them on a night out, you'd probably have a bit of crack, depending on who it is. Maybe not Jax. But, you know, at the end of the day, they're just people who went on a TV show. I'm using them as reference points. That's all. So let's start, right? First, I want to start with going over the cast. This year's cast, because we are in 2022. I only started watching Love Island 2019 when I think a lot of people did. I think that was its biggest year ever. So I'm by no means a Love Island connoisseur. I don't have that many reference points, but I do really enjoy the show. I thought I wouldn't. I was actually a Love Island hater at the beginning because I was never much of a like everyday reality TV series kind of person. Like I was not a huge Big Brother watcher. I watched it a bit when I was younger, but I'm not one of these fanatics of Big Brother. I could never keep up. It was just like every single day. It seemed like a lot for me to keep up with. I can barely do Housewives once a week, you know. I've actually completely fallen off my Housewives thing, but that's another day. A conversation for another day. So 2022 cast. Last year's cast was definitely a flop for me, so I was interested to see what they were going to bring this year, and I think they've gotten better, more juicy characters, right? Like I feel like they can bring it a bit more. We've got a bit more dynamic in there. So first off, let's talk about Luca and Gemma, right? So they're the longest standing couple so far. They're quite obsessed with each other. Gemma, obviously we have a nepotism baby who I think we all thought would go in kind of spoiled acting, and she's obviously the youngest as well. She's super young. She's only 19. Personally, my opinion, I think they should raise the age. I think it should be 21 to 29 or whatever, just because like 19 is just so fucking young, you know, that way. Really it should be 25 and over, but however. Again, conversation for a different day. Gemma, to me, I like Gemma. I've liked Gemma since she went in there. She has confidence, and I do feel like that confidence was bought through like privilege. Like she is obviously a very well off girl. She's grown up probably in the best schools, but you know, it shows. She seems really well educated. She's well spoken. She's very sure of herself. I like her. I think that she's probably not the best character for reality TV, just because she doesn't bring a lot. She's quite dry, but my favorite thing is how she shuts people down. She's not afraid to stand up for herself, and I think Gemma's quite cool. Luca, dear God, that man is a walking ick to me. He came in and I was like, okay, this guy is going to be kind of like our bachelor character. He's going to be a bit of a playboy. Couldn't have been any more wrong. This man is the biggest simp I've ever seen on Love Island. Like, oh my God, even more than Jake, my girlfriend. Like that was even too pushed, you know. Luca is actually a fucking simp. Actually, Luca has admitted he's a cook, because in the lap dancing challenge, he literally was like, I got more turned on when Gemma was like lap dancing on other men. I was like, there's a fetish for that girl, don't worry, you can get Gemma with a big old strap on as soon as you get out of the villa. There's a lot of talk about like how he probably found out who Gemma's dad was and now has locked it in. I mean, I say that was definitely a perk for him. I just don't see how they think it's going to work on the outside. I'm like, babe, you're a fishmonger. She's like a huge footballer's daughter who's like living somewhere probably very fancy. I don't get how they think that's going to go down, really. And from what I've heard, Michael Owen has been very outspokenly against Gemma going on this, so I'm gonna presume he's gonna be quite against whoever the fuck Gemma finds on the show. I think the producers wanted to shake things up with Jax, but it just didn't really work because I think Gemma is just like, nah, I'm over you, which fair play. Speaking of Jax and Paige, let's talk about them. Jack's probably one of the most toxic people who's ever been put into the villa, I think. He, from the get-go, the way he spoke to the other women, I noticed the first red flag for me was when he like spoke to Ekin-Su that way. He was just like, it was after she kissed Jay, and he's just said some really nasty things to her. He's shouted at her. He's called Paige pathetic. Although that fight they had where it was after the heart monitor test challenge game thing, Paige came over, and now in fairness Paige was being a bit of a mope. Like, she wasn't, instead of just being angry and coming over to him being like, I'm annoyed that happened, she was like, no, there's nothing wrong with me, there's nothing wrong with me. I hate it when people do that. It's like, just fucking tell me. Jax is toxic, and I respect how Gemma has just let Paige figure that out for herself. Like, I really think that shows a real mature side to Gemma, not to make it all about Gemma again, but like the fact that she wasn't, like, she did the opposite of what Jax did. Jax was like in Luca's ear being like, oh, Gemma didn't let me go out, Gemma didn't let me party, and it's like, you could just tell he was the type who'd go on 3-day benders with the boys. Like, it's like, I don't think it's that Gemma didn't let you. I think it's that, like, you probably cheated on her, were doing shady things, you got caught, and she didn't trust you and you broke up. Like, that's clearly what happened. Gemma has made that abundantly clear to the viewer, I think. But yeah, he's nasty. Now, obviously, just so you know, there might be spoilers in this if you're not up to date, so... last night, I just watched the episode this morning, he was already like cracking on with 2 words, like me and my English, cracking on with 2 words. He had fucking new girl Cheyenne and Molly, who, by the way, I thought were the same person. I just thought she had extensions. I thought she was like taking out her extensions, putting in her extensions. They look the same, they look like twins. He was cracking on with Molly, then he was like, actually no, I want to get on with Cheyenne. He's all over Cheyenne. She's giving him boners in the pool. Good God, this guy is just like... He dragged Paige out of bed. Dragged her out of bed after she was showing a spot of interest in Jay. Drags her out of the bed, starts sobbing on the stairs to her, and now he's like fucking getting boners in the pool with Molly. So then we have Paige in general. A lot of talk online about her being fake nice. I don't think it's that she's fake nice. I just think that Love Island producers don't want to show her nasty side, because there's been a good few little nasty bits that have happened and I am not into it. Number one, when I really saw the mean girl in her, was when Danica and India, I believe, were walking over towards them after Antigone... Well, something happened with that. Was it the recoupling? Again, what happens on the show isn't really the most important. But anyway, she shooed them. I couldn't believe it. She was sat with every other fucking girl in that villa. The 2 came over who also were like, or was it like a challenge? I can't remember. You can correct me in the comments, okay? Danica and India were coming over to her and the girls to discuss something that happened. And Paige was like, do you mind, like, we can catch up and then you can catch up? We're living in a house together. This isn't the club. Like, you're trying to make a private club. I didn't like that. I thought it was nasty. And she also shushed Ekin-Su in a really nasty way the other day. So yeah, Paige, to me, I don't think it's that she's fake nice. I just think that Love Island aren't showing her nastiness, and I also think that she's trying to come across this like lovely bubbly girl. That's just her MO. They all have an MO, so hers is just very obvious, like I'm the nice girl, which is just like, oh god, what a boring trope. Speaking of our girl Ekin-Su and Davide, I mean, what a roller coaster. The minute that girl walked in the villa, I think we all knew it was going to be Ekin-Su's show. We're all just watching it. She is an actress. I saw this really funny clip on TikTok the other day where like she saw, I think it was Danica walk over with her phone in her hand, and she obviously knew that like Danica was about to get a text, so that's when she was like, I've got a spot on my bum. Does anybody want to pop it? Like she just knows that when the cameras are on her, and I love her. Like she's obviously just such an icon. I'd say she'd be quite a hard person to be friends with because she's kind of all over the place, but like TV gold, can't say a word against her. I love the like love heart eyes she has for any fucking fella that walks in. Like one of the highlights for me was when she was like mad about Davide, and then Jay walked in. She was like she's just gold. Davide, I don't know. I think this is like, it shows a real like, what's the like a culture gap or something between like Europeans and then like Brits. Like I just don't think they vibe together. Davide is grand, like everyone's like he's the funniest on the show. I don't think so. I think if he didn't have an Italian accent, none of you would think he's that funny, and that's just the truth. But he is like, he seems like kind of like silly. Like I guess he seems like he would be super bet into himself, which he probably isn't to an extent, but like I guess because he can show a bit of a silly side, people are like, oh, he's so funny, when he's like, not really. He's grand, but he doesn't blow me away. My fave couple, which are now possibly in jeopardy, Dami and India. India was my favorite girl looks wise from day one. I just thought she was the hottest. I thought she was so like always put together so well. Like her hair, her makeup always looks impeccable. She seems like she has a really cool energy. Like she seems like someone I would vibe with. I can imagine us like sitting there kind of like sniggering, like being like, you know what I mean? She just seems fucking cool. So when her and Dami got together, our Irish Nigerian king, I was buzzing, and he seems all about her. Dami seems like, I mean, he's just such an Irish kind of fucking, I mean, to be honest, a bit of an Irish fuckboy. Like, let's be real. I'm sorry, I can't mince my words. He has been smooching up a storm in Casa Amor, which I am not happy about. She's been like lightly playing with the idea of getting with this guy Deji, who is so hot. But like I don't know, she's gonna come back single. I think he'll stay single. I think he'll realize that it's all about India. He just wanted to like fuck around for a week, but I think that it's good. I don't see India sticking around come movie night when she sees that. Tasha and Andrew, really quickly, they're grand. I don't really get the major hate that Tasha's getting. She's fine. Like she seems a bit dumb. Like, what did she say? She said something really thick a while ago, and I was like, oh, about the red and white wine. She's like, oh, maybe rosé is just when they mix red and white wine. And even Danica was like, I don't think so, babe. She's really hot, super pretty girl, banging bod. Definitely knows she's a babe, but like, who cares? You know what I mean? Definitely doesn't like Andrew that much. Andrew also, he's just like, he is giving Curtis energy, you know, like now he's like all eggs in the basket of Coco. Coco seems to not really give a fuck. She just wants her time on TV, I think. My prediction is he's going to recouple with Coco and he's going to regret it. Finally, Danica and Jay, I know they're not a couple, but we're going to love them together. Love Danica. I think she's so pretty. She literally looks like a Bratz doll. She's gorgeous. She needs to chill down the makeup a bit. I think like the sparkly eyeshadow, very 2016. She seems so fun. I think she's been kind of done dirty in the villa. Her lap dance was the best, I think. The fucking best. She was so hot. Her body is banging. She's just been done dirty in the villa. There's always one. There's always someone that comes in. Like, remember Rachel last year? Like, super cool, beautiful girl. They just kind of, if you come in mid-season, I feel like it's a bit of a flop, you know, because a lot of the long kind of standing relationships have already been formed, so you are trying to like fully like step on toes or whatever. Jay, again, I think he's so hot, but he is giving me a bit of the ick now. Just the way he went about things, the whole Paige thing was like, oh, you know, guys who just fall for that bullshit, like, I'm really nice girl. It's just like, grow up, babe, grow the fuck up. Number one thing that I think we can learn about love, life, dating, relationships from Love Island is it's all about the ego. A huge part of Love Island, this year anyway, I can't remember if this was always this way, but you can let me know other couples who you've seen this in. This whole idea of he likes you more than her, you like her more than she does, she likes you more than you. Like, there's this competition, and I don't think that the competition is, well, A, you don't really see that being spoken aloud that much in real dating. It's very much like insular on the TV show, but it's so wrapped up in your ego. Because realistically, think of it this way, like, first off, if there's two people in a relationship, one is always going to be a little bit more into the other, especially at the start. Sometimes the one who pursued the other is more into the other person. Sometimes it can flip the opposite way. It just depends how you are in a relationship, how you like, especially in a like seeing each other kind of phase. Like, it just depends. Like, and also that can fluctuate. Like, there's times in your relationship where you're like, I'm more into him right now than he's into me. Like, it just happens. You're not always going to be on the exact same level as each other 100% through the way. But the ego that jumps out when people talk about this is crazy, because you and I know Luca doesn't care that he likes Gemma more. He cares that the lads know it and have realized it. Like, realistically, in any relationship, like, it doesn't matter who likes someone more at the beginning, especially because someone is always, I do think someone always pushes the relationship forward a little bit more. You're very, as I said, very rarely are you going to be on the same page for the entire relationship. That's impossible. Luca's ego, man, is on the table, because when he hears you like Gemma more, he's not hearing like, oh, like, you know, you can really push this forward, like maybe you can like, you know, schmooze her a little bit more, or that's just how her love language is. She's not like an overly like affectionate person. I can relate. He's hearing the lads going, oh, you're a pussy, like there, you like her more. He's hearing she doesn't like you that much, which is just not true. Likewise with the whole Andrew and Tash thing, like, I can't believe how quick Andrew has flipped a switch, but it is to do with his ego, because the girls kind of noted to him, the new girls, that like he's been taken for a mug with no basis, no evidence. Now, again, I know there's a lot of conversation around how like Tasha doesn't like Andrew that much. I mean, was she not on the fucking daybeds asking Ekin-Su how she knows if she's ever been in love? Like, I think she does like Andrew. I just think she doesn't really want to be in a relationship, if I'm honest. I think she wants like that ASOS brand deal. She wants to quit doing the ASOS modeling. She's like, bitch, I want to be an influencer, and we'll get on to that point later. But the ego is everything in the Love Island villa. It is all about perception. It's all about self-perception. It's all about having a bit of a front off. Like, when you think about Paige, okay, so Paige started crying this week in the confessional, and she was crying, which was so layered and so meta. She was crying because there was a chance, again, I think it was Samuel, was it? Your man, he was kind of like, oh, I think... Sorry, brief interruption there. Evan came home with the shopping. So yeah, your man Samuel was like, oh, I think like Jax is like mugging you off. She starts crying, and the only reason she's crying, and she says this, so she knows Jax basically is going to be cheating on her. Pretty much, right? And she doesn't mind that, I guess, which is fine, okay. You're not each other's boyfriend, girlfriend. If that's the game you want to play, that's fine. But she's upset because of basically the public perception of her being a mug. Like, when also, like, babe, you like played all your cards. Like, you literally told Jax that like you've been cheated on twice. You've been like trying to say you've been like showing yourself you're insecure to him. He's gonna play your ass. Like, but her ego is actually more fragile than anything else, because she doesn't want the public to see her as being mugged off, in a sense. When, even though she's literally just said, I know Jax is gonna flirt and talk to other girls. So it's like, you actually know he's gonna mug you off. But what's upset you more is that your man Samuel came up to you and was kind of like confirmed your biggest insecurity insecurity that people think you're being mugged off, you know what I mean? Andrew obviously ended up doing a very similar thing with Coco. We discussed that. It's all because people kind of said like, oh, Tasha is not that into you, or there's a possibility of her like mugging you off to the public. So now he's just like done the exact same thing with Coco as he did with Tasha, like fucking every single egg that he's ever owned in his life, cracked or not, in a basket of Coco. Okay. And then like with Ego, you also see like the producers bringing in stuff. So you've got movie night and the Twitter reading the public's tweets, and I think it's really interesting how Love Island breaks the fourth wall in that way. Like they really bring in the public opinion, public perception, because when you're in a relationship, right, it can be very easy to get tied up in like the public perception of your relationship. And by public, I mean like your friends, family, all that kind of stuff. Because on one hand, you want your peers to respect you, and you want your peers to respect your relationship and see it as genuine and see it as, you know, good for you, and that like your partner, the person that you've chosen to spend either the rest of your life or just right now with, you want them to like back that up, right? I think that's human and it's normal. But at the same time, it's not the biggest deal of the world. Like if one or two of your friends is kind of like, I don't know if you should stay with him, because your opinion on your relationship and your opinion on, you know, how strong you are as an item is really all that matters. And it is definitely like a stereotype or a cliche, but it is true at the end of the day. But you do need the balance, like, because realistically, you're probably not gonna stay with someone who like all your friends hate. And that can be a bit of a red flag too. If like all your friends are like, babes, you need to get rid of him, you know what I mean? But when Love Island bring in that like public perception, which is the actual public, that really fucks up the couples more than anything else. Because, and even like you see it with Tasha and Andrew, it like shocked them that they're like being voted the least compatible couple twice in a row, and they're only ever up there with like friend couples. They're not up there with like, you know, Gemma and Luca. Even Ekin-Su and Davide beat them in the last vote, and that I think shook them more than anything. Movie night is insane. The fact, and it's something that would never happen in a real relationship, so this is real fucking reality TV meddling. Like you've got video evidence of your boyfriend, not even boyfriend, like your Love Island partner, I don't understand how their obsession with this, we're not boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm like, you're living together, you're sleeping in the same bed, and you're in a couple. Like, you must really forget about the cameras very early on in the villa, because like the shit that they say to each other and do to each other when Casa Amor is going on, I'm like, guys, like, out of sight, out of mind, babes. Like those girls are on a wet weekend and you're like, oh, you're amazing, Coco. Like, oh, my boner won't go down in the pool. Like that shook me. But again, that is the whole idea of like your ego in a relationship. And I do think that like ego has a big part to play in relationships, because as much as we don't want to admit it, like public perception of our relationships does matter to us. Our peers accepting our partner does matter to us. Our peers and our parents and our friends and people around us seeing our relationship as genuine, it does matter. And it might be an external validation thing, but I think it's also a way of us like kind of weighing up our relationship and like, am I being mugged off? Like, am I Paige right now? Am I being mugged off? And like everyone knows it but me. And I think that's also like, as much as I slag Paige for it, well, not slag her, but as much as I like critiqued her about it, I get it. Like I get that feeling of like, I really like this guy, I'm actually okay with him doing X, Y, and Z, but I don't want the public to think that I'm an idiot, or like I don't want my friends to find out something that my boyfriend did and think that I'm not okay with it. I guess that's the equivalent. And you just have to be like strong in yourself, I guess, and back yourself, as they like to say on the island. Next thing that I've learned from Love Island is that social currency means so much more than the 50 grand check. Obviously, we all know that like Love Island is now like a bit of a farm for influencers, and people now are going into the villa. It's no secret to become an influencer. It is now very lucrative to go on Love Island. You come out of there with like probably at least like 200,000 followers if we're talking like in the low end. If you're one of the favorite couples, especially if you're a female, you'll probably get upwards of 1 million, especially if you are outspoken and funny, like Maura Higgins, for example. I think Ekin-Su was kind of our new Maura Higgins. So I think that already the premise is like who gives a fuck about the 50k? Like, I also, when I watch that show, I forget that someone's gonna like win the show, because the real winner, let's be real, is whoever succeeds the most after the show. Like, Molly May didn't win Love Island 2019, but she clearly won the show. Like, we don't hear about Amber. It reminds me of the RuPaul's Drag Race curse, where it's like whoever wins RuPaul's Drag Race never becomes the most successful. It's like, it's more the fan favorite, or like whoever comes number 2. Because a lot of the time when you look back on Drag Race, like the person who won isn't the person you remember winning. You're like, oh, they won, but like this person works so much more. And I guess it is just more of a like personality thing, who maybe is a bit more controversial, who's more outspoken. And it shows like kind of what the public is looking for in a reality TV contestant, right? Versus like the judges, or versus like the producers. Because sometimes on Love Island you can see them trying to push a couple to be like, you know, the new favorites, and they're just not. Like, they're trying to push like Gemma and Luca down our throat, and they were for a while with Tasha and Andrew, and it's just like, we're not biting. Like, we're not biting. They're not giving us all we want to give. Like, if Ekin-Su and Davide really got it on, like, I mean, it could be iconic, but I think she's above him anyway. Like, the fact she was talking about a wedding with him, I'm like, girl, you are insane. But the candidates, like as I said on our last point about the ego, they're definitely becoming more and more aware of the public perception and how important that is. And I think that ties in with, say, Luca. Like, he's very much trying to be lad's lad, even though he has fallen like head over heels for Gemma. A lot of speculation over like, you know, their age and everything like that. Again, that's kind of a reason why I think it should be 21 and up. Like, it's just a bit weird having a 19-year-old in there with a 29-year-old or whatever fucking age he is. But like, they're both adults, so, you know, whatever. The public perception is a big thing, because even if you come out winning the 50k, they know that if you're not respected and if the way you played the game wasn't liked by the public, you're not really gonna go that far. Like, you're not really gonna shoot beyond anything. You're not gonna be getting those ASOS deals, or you might, but like, it'll just be a flash in the pan while you've got your followers, and then it'll just kind of dwindle down. So I think that has added an interesting element to Love Island over the last few years, specifically the last 2 years. I think Molly May, I think that really kicked it really far off. But obviously people like Olivia Atwood and Megan Barton, what's her name? They've all like had like pretty lucrative careers after Love Island, and people are always following in that footstep. One of the last big lessons that I think we've all learned from Love Island is that men cheat, women cheat, but we do it very differently. So I do find the concept of cheating interesting on Love Island versus the outside world. Like, they have this whole, as I said earlier, they have this whole idea around like, we're not boyfriend, girlfriend, we're not boyfriend, girlfriend. And then we had Jake, who was like, you are my girlfriend. Like, you're my girlfriend because you're my girlfriend. Like, he was so like too obsessed with this whole label of boyfriend, girlfriend. As I said, like, I understand it, because like for myself in a relationship, like, I mean, I would cringe if a guy asked me to be his girlfriend, especially at my big age. But like, it is a thing where it's kind of like, when you start calling each other boyfriend, girlfriend, you are like, okay, we're locked in. We've both like agreed to make this relationship an official thing. You know, it does bring in this weird thing when you have like Casa Amor, because I'm like, hold the fuck on. How is any of this not cheating? Like, if Evan went out to a club and spoke to a girl in any way, and I'm talking like when we started seeing each other, I would be fuming. And I would be like, okay, I get it, we're not like together, but like, just because you don't call me your girlfriend doesn't mean like you can't show me the basic level of respect by not like telling some girl that like, you'll have fun in bed tonight, or we'll be naughty together. It's like, men just seem to be able to do this so easily. It is truly out of sight, out of mind for them. The second those girls toddled on down to Casa Amor, which is probably about 200 meters away, the lads were insane. They were jumping up and down. I'm sure it's spurred on by producers, but Jesus Christ, I've never seen a group of lads so excited for Casa Amor as these guys had. I was cringing when they were jumping in the pool. Like, guys, I was cringing. The girls were excited, and when they saw the lads come in, they were like, ooh, but let's be real, like, the lads they gave them aren't that hot. Like, there's no, like, what was his name? Ovi? Oh, now that was a Casa Amor guy. That guy was so hot. None of the lads, and personally, I don't think any of the girls are really like, whoa, like they'd be stealing your man, stealing your girlfriend. But the way these people are acting, it's as if they haven't seen a bit, I guess they haven't seen a bit of fresh meat, but in like what, 4 weeks? Like, come on. The whole idea around like Casa Amor being the best test, Casa Amor is not a test. Casa Amor just gives you cold, hard evidence that your boyfriend doesn't respect you, and don't, like, okay, your boyfriend, what else do I call them? Your couple up, like, what the fuck? He does not respect you. If the way he goes about it, like, this whole idea of like, it's a lad's holiday, like, no, it's not. You're not on holiday, you're on a TV show. And on what, like, way to put like fucking seeds of doubt in your relationship going forward. So you're telling me every time you're going on a lad's holiday, this is gonna how you're gonna act? No, thank you. Are you for real? I would be like, livid is not the word. Like, and no one should ever act like that on a holiday just because your partner's not there. Like, you are literally proving to me out of sight, out of mind. And you would never, ever, ever be able to convince me otherwise. Like, oh, well, now we're boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm like, babe, we live together. We slept in the same bed. Like, we went on TV together. Like, we have this weird connection. And now the second a blonde bitch comes in, you are having boners in the pool. Are you for real? Jax has this insane idea around like, well, how am I gonna know that my relationship is for real if I don't bang another girl? Like, what? Like, that that makes no sense whatsoever in terms of relationships. And like, it is a weird idea and it's a weird concept that I would be afraid people will pick up on, like, that in order to like test your relationship, you need to have like, I don't know, external threats at all time. Like, that is not a secure relationship. You should never ever feel that way. Of course, like, I think a bit of jealousy here and there, like, we all want to know. I do think the reality is we all want to know that like our partner is like still wanted and still people find them sexy, because that can give you an ego boost. And like, it can, like, you should know that your partner is like wanted by other people. I presume it's the same in every relationship. Like, it's a nice thing to know, you know, that way. Like, it's a nice thing to know for your fella every now and again that other fellas find you hot, you know? Like when you go on holidays to the continent and some Italian guys like, oh bella, and they're all over you. It's like, just, you know, it can make them see you in this kind of like way like they haven't in a while, maybe, especially if you're in a long-term relationship. But like, there's a way bigger difference between like people checking you out on the street and then me going up to that guy and, I don't know, feeling his crotch. Like, no. I think even in any relationship, like, the foundations should be laid secure. And like, as much as he is an ick to me, fair fucking play to Luca. I think he's going to be fuming when he finds out that Gemma's been sleeping in a bed with Guy, even if it is just as friends, because he made this big show and a dance about sleeping outside. If you are even, in my opinion anyway, if you're even like tempted to have this like whirlwind romance on a lad's holiday, babe, you shouldn't be in a relationship. You need to be single, like fully single. The last thing that I have really taken from Love Island is that settling or rushing will always catch up on you. And I think we saw this, first of all, we see this with Andrew, okay? I don't think he settled with Tasha. I think he kind of got googly eyes, like, oh my god, she's so good looking. She kind of settled for him, I think. But we saw it with like Jake and Liberty, we saw it with Curtis and Amy. When you just have the first connection in the villa and you just like go hell-bent for leather and you're like, oh my god, we are together. Especially with Andrew and Tasha, like they were paired up from the public. Like, that's even more insane. It's like an arranged marriage. Like, it's not gonna fare well. And I think when you're single, you should take that into consideration, really buckling down. And I made this mistake when I was single, I feel, a few times. Sometimes the first guy who I fancied, and if he showed me an ounce of like fancying me back, I'd be like, oh my god. It's like, do you like him, or do you just like that you're being liked after maybe a period of like guys not being that into you? Like, we all go through those like ebbs and flows in relationships of like, oh my god, like no one's really feeling me right now. I don't know what it is. It's happened to me loads of times when I've been single. The worst thing you can do then is the first time a guy looks your way, be like, ugh. And if anyone, like, it is a way of, like, if anyone is willing to get that serious that quick, I think that's a major red flag. And I feel that Love Island is a pressure cooker for relationships. I get that. I 100% understand it. But there are some couples who seem to take it a little bit slower. And that does build up. Even like Tommy and Molly, from what I remember, like they weren't like fucking that obsessed from the get-go. They obviously stayed together the whole time, but like Jesus Christ, it took them a while to really be like, I'm fucking mad about you. Settlers, you know, settlers and rushers in the Love Island villa don't always fare that well. You can 100% be like Tommy and Molly, just be with each other the whole time, but I think people always see through that. There is a disingenuity, is that the word? It's kind of disingenuous to be like, especially when the cameras are involved, because you're like, oh, you just want to win the show. I do think Luca really wants to win the show, and I think he's delighted that like all the chaos is happening with the lads, and I loved that Dami called him out on that. So to end it off, I'm going to say some things that I loved this season and some things I'd like to change about the show, or just like some ideas for the producers that I think would be great ideas for Love Island. Number one, I have to say, for a show that is so mind focus, for a show that is so, I guess, just straight and, you know, very typical gender norms or whatever, I love that the lads really went in on the stripping lap dance challenge. Like, I love that. Like, I love it wasn't a joke. You know, it's a real lad thing to be like, oh, like, I'm going to do this. And the girls are like fully going in. The lads this year, I was like, fair play. You actually tried to be sexy. Even if that was just like picking up girls and pretending to bang them. But like, at least you tried, you know? Another thing I'd like to change is kind of, which is again more of a societal thing, I guess, but like the idea and how they speak about sex on the show. This is not a family show. It's on at 9 p.m. It's an adult show. We're talking sex and relationships. I don't know if it's the producers who like make them kind of not speak about sex very, what would the word be, like openly. Like there's this whole idea, like this year they're like, oh, your salon, like did you get a manicure? And I guess it's kind of funny, and I understand you wouldn't really want to be like, I gave him a wank, but like I would like to see a little bit more open discussion. The main thing I would like to see, and I think this would come from having like slightly older girls in there, like I can see, you can tell, would say whatever. I think like the women, I would wish they were a bit more liberated in spilling the tea on what they did. Like I don't like it when the girls go into a room, bang the guy, or like do whatever the fuck they want, because like fair play, why not? I'm sure you're horny as hell. And then they come out and they're like, no, nothing happened. And they're telling the guy like, don't tell anyone that anything happened. I'm like, guys, you went on TV. There's cameras in the hideaway. Like, we know you banged. We know you did. And that's okay. We want you to. But I guess that's the thing, because like in the past, I think a lot of women have been really shamed about having sex in the villa and on TV when the lads haven't been. So it's like a larger issue, I guess, but I do think that like it doubles down the shame around sex when the women are lying to their friends. Like I can understand maybe saying to the guy like, oh, don't be fucking off telling your mates about how I gave you a blowjob, but like tell your friends. That's what you would do in real life. Like I don't like that lying, you know. But again, producers can't do anything about that. I think they need a little bit more originality when it comes to like the plot twists on the show, like Casa Amor. It's like, it's kind of become a little bit too, it's become stale. Like we all know what's going to come. Some of them are great, and don't get me wrong, Casa Amor should still happen. It's still interesting, but I think they should mix it up a bit. Like I don't know what that would be, but like I think in the Casa Amor, like it should just be like, we should just get something different, like, because realistically I think the couples have to have a conversation around Casa Amor, like off camera, or that we're not seeing, like, so, you know, especially the strong couples. So like when there are couples who like are really strong, it's not that I think that they should be like forced to share a bed or anything like that. I just feel like there should still be some like spanners thrown, you know, just to kind of like not test the couples, not to fuck with their heads a bit, but like just give us something else, like a few more X's in there. Give us X on the beach, like that's a great show, you know, like I don't know, but you know what I mean? I think it's like a little bit too like, and then we've Casa Amor, and then we've movie night, and then we have this, and then we have that, and I think that the contestants can tell what's coming next, and I don't think that makes for great TV. One challenge that I really think is so boring, and it's usually when I stop watching Love Island because I'm like, oh, I don't care who wins, you know, the drama's done, it's all just like solid couples now. The baby challenge, boring. I don't want to see a bunch of 19, 21 year olds looking after a baby, okay? I hope they don't have a baby anytime soon. And I just don't want to see it. It's so boring. It's always the same. The lad's always like, oh, what the fuck? And then the girl's always like, I don't know what to do. Like, it's not interesting. What I do think they should have to do is a wife swap. I would love that. I think they should have to, or husband swap, whatever way you want to put it. I think that they should all have to spend a week with someone else's girlfriend, and they're not allowed to be going over smooching each other. Like, they're just not, even if that was like a Casa and More, they split them up and did a wife swap, like a forced. I'm like, don't fuck with their heads. I'm like, force them in the bed with each other. But I just think that that could, you know, I guess that's the idea of Casa and More, because it's like, oh, what you don't have with X, you might have with Y. But I think it would be more interesting when it's like people in the villa, and maybe like at an earlier stage too, not when they're so solid, you know. Finally, I think that they should do a Love Island with 30 and pluses, because when you're 30 plus, like 29 to 35 or a little bit older, you've got way more on the line. You've had a few serious relationships under your belt. You definitely know yourself more, and you know what you want more. And I think it would just be a more interesting dynamic on Love Island. Like, I think for ages they've been asked for older people. I don't really want like super old, because I think that would just kind of go into the whole like, oh, they're so cute. Like, no. And I also don't want to see like older people being fucked with the way that reality TV producers fuck with them. And I think you'd actually also have to like ask for like mad people, be like Real Housewives, which honestly would be iconic. But I do think 30 to 40 year olds would be great, because you've got like older women who know themselves more, they're less shameful hopefully of sex. You've got older guys, like, I mean, people could have been married before. I just think it would be iconic. I think that would be a great way to bring up a little bit of spice into the Love Island villa. And finally, I don't know if they do this, I've never seen it, but I wish they would have a reunion like 3 months after the show, like, because I think that'd be so interesting to see like how everyone's done. Like, is there any beef? Have they been like tweeting each other? Have they seen scenes? Like, who stayed together, who hasn't, who hates each other? Like, we want to know, you know. And I don't want to follow them on Instagram, because their Instagrams are always so boring and like littered with like shite ads. But I would like a reunion, and I would like it to be hosted by Ian Sterling, because he's funny and he would roast them. And I think it would be funny then to like re-show them bits like of the show that maybe they didn't see, like unseen bits, and like that could either like stir up it's so fucked up, I'm actually like fully fuck with their heads, but like it would stir up shit in relationships, or like if you broke up with someone, you'd be like, thank God I didn't do that, you know. So I think finally they should do a reunion, and it should be like 3 months after the show ends, just to like wait for their lives to settle. Anyway, comment below, let me know what you've learned from Love Island, and let me know what your predictions of this season are. Is there anything I said that you disagree with? Is there anything that you agree with? Let me know. I'll talk to you all next week. It'll be a normal vlog next week. Love ya.